Voices of Victory Podcast Show. Voices of Victory. Voices of Victory. Voices of Victory. Voices of Victory Podcast Show.
It's now time for the Voices of Victory Podcast Show.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's Mario D.
And welcome to Voices of Victory Podcast. Today is objectivity, the secret weapon for navigating polarization in leadership. You might be like, what the hell is he talking about? Well, welcome back to Voices of Victory. I'm Mario D. Leone, if you've never been on this show before. And today's topic is going to be all about navigating polarization within leadership. Now, before we even dive in on this whole thing, let's get something straight about polarization itself. It isn't funny. It's not a funny topic, okay? But humor really helps us tackle it without feeling like we're swimming through quicksand. So the secret weapon that we're actually talking about today is a very important one. It's an art form. It's an absolute art form, objectivity. It's like the Swiss Army knife of leadership. It's got a tool for every situation, especially when the room is split like a bad haircut. So let's go ahead and unpack what polarization really is and how objectivity is really going to support you. Let's just define it right off the bat. What the hell is polarization? It's real simple. When two sides are so far apart, they're basically yelling at each other across the room. And they're yelling like it's the Grand Canyon. And neither one decided to bring a megaphone with them. So picture it. You know, one side says the glass is half full, the other side says it's half empty. And guess what? The leader is in the middle holding the glass, wondering why? Why has nobody noticed that the glass is even cracked? You know, that's polarization at its best. And we have become a very polarized world. So objectivity is your secret weapon. It's absolutely your secret weapon. It's the ability to look at a situation without getting dragged into the drama. It's removing yourself from some of the emotional content and being very objective about the whole thing. So think of it as being a referee in a heated soccer match. Now, your job isn't to score goals, but it's to make sure the game doesn't turn into a fighting match, right? We don't want everybody wrestling and struggling and in the fray together, beating each other up. So objectivity is going to help you navigate polarization at its best without losing your cool. A good phrase that I always use that connects to objectivity is we don't see things as they are, we see things as we are. So when we see things as they are, that's objectivity. We step into that objective role. So we're able to look at the big picture. When things get heated, avoid getting sucked into the emotional content, the emotional tug of war. Step back and say, what is the real issue here? You know, and that's what I did in mediation. For those of you that don't know, I spent some time in mediation training within the state of Massachusetts. And let me tell you, it's hard. It's real hard. A lot of those situations were not fun. Some of them were even simulations for training. And you got to look at the real issue. Because what looks like just an ordinary disagreement on the surface is really a miscommunication, or there's something that is not uncovered. People may feel unheard. And that, by the way, can happen when people are angry. They want to be felt, they want to be heard, and they want to be understood. So when you stay objective, you have to do your best not to let their whole attitude or whatever is going on within them impress their anger upon you to where you get triggered, you get angry. You got to be able to move into objectivity. That's where we have to control our physiology. We have to be able to breathe, slow down, guide ourselves to the situation, and most of all, stay objective. It happens to help us focus on the actual problem, like the solution, being solution-oriented, not the noise, right? And we can't play favorites because objectivity means staying neutral. If you want to be a bad mediator, if you want to be a mediator in any state and you want to be a horrible one, just pick sides. Just pick sides. Because mediators will get accused all the time of, oh, well, you sided with him because, you sided with her because, and they'll throw whatever reason, fill in the blank. So playing favorites is a major problem. You got to stay neutral in this particular situation, even if you were to quote unquote secretly agree with one side. Keep it to yourself. You have to be kind of like Switzerland at that point. No matter how tempting it is to want to jump in and launch a missile, your job is to be calm in the storm. Your fairness is going to be needed, and it will earn respect from both sides. And we have to be able to separate facts from feelings. We have to honor people's feelings. Keep that in mind. Like, we have to honor people's feelings. We have to respect people's feelings. We could connect to where they're coming from, but we do have to look at the raw reasons that are there. Just because we're looking at the facts doesn't constitute that I myself have to disregard the way somebody feels. I have to understand. I have to get down to brass tacks about what the real issues actually are. And again, this is in the corporate world. We're not talking about outside on the street and whatever your views are. I'm not talking about that. I'm not going there. I'm not going there at all. But polarization happens when people confuse opinions with the facts. So as a leader, it's your job to ask, like, hey, what are the facts? And you got to be that detective. You got to be able to pluck apart that situation like a mystery novel and focus on the actual evidence, not the emotions that are swirling around it. So it's important for you to ask quality questions instead of just giving answers. All right? Avoid solving it yourself, but use questions to go deeper. Open-ended questions to help your teams find the common ground. What's the outcome that we all want here? It's such an easy phrase. What are we trying to achieve on this side? What are you trying to achieve on this side? Great. Can we meet in the middle right here, in between these two areas? So that's the whole idea. How can we move forward on both sides without sacrificing a shared goal? And we have to guide people to their solutions. Make them empowered and less combative. And you know what? Humor will break the tension. Objectivity doesn't mean you got to be a robot. A little bit of humor can go a long way. You got to make sure it's appropriate in the workplace. Ease the tension. Okay, if the room feels like it's about to explode, drop a lighthearted comment like, well, at least we can all agree that Mondays are absolutely the worst. Just a little humor that doesn't belittle anyone. It's not tearing people to pieces. It's about building bridges, not burning them. Set clear boundaries, because polarization thrives within chaos. So setting boundaries for discussions is going to be important. Setting those boundaries are very important. If you've ever seen Lord of the Flies, it's one of my favorite books, but it's also one of my favorite movies. They kind of came up with a rule. That rule got broken later on, by the way. They came up with a rule, and that rule was whoever was holding the conch shell was the person speaking. And that's how they did it. What happened was because they were all children in the movie, and I'm not going to give a spoiler alert, but it all went south. It went south because the boundaries weren't firmly understood, firmly grasped, and firmly respected. So whoever was holding the conch shell was the person that was to speak. So what I'm simply saying is that when we're having discussions, we may want to use tools around us to set those boundaries. Maybe a marking whiteboard or an easel, something that's going to help us kind of keep the points where they are without it being like you're keeping score. It's not your job to keep score on that. It is your job to kind of like separate the ideas. Think of it that way. It's more valuable at that point to be a facilitator and be objective and help reveal what's necessary than to just throw out certain ideas. I mean, don't get me wrong. You're going to have rules within the organization. You're going to have boundaries within the organization. You're going to have to reinforce those things. Like, we're not going to have skirt tail those. Like, you have those. Those are a thing, right? Those are part of the boundaries. Think of the rules as a boundary set that we have. So we have to make it clear that everyone has got that chance to speak. No interruptions, no personal attacks. It's like dodgeball. Let's set the rules up. Fair play, respectful play. Remember where you are. We are in the workplace. And no aiming for the face, right? That's what dodgeball does, right? So we have to look at the shared goal. Remind the team, like, okay, you're both engaged in this debate. Like, we have to really understand the bigger picture here. Because what tends to happen, and I've seen this a lot within debate, is people want to engage in a debate and don't even know the reason why they want to engage into it. Like, you have to ask yourself, if someone's picking a debate with you, you have to ask yourself, like, what are we trying to achieve here? Because some people will choose to debate for the pure reason is like, I have a point to prove. And other people will choose to debate, say, I want to belittle you. Right? And this can happen. Debates happen in the workplace. And let me tell you, they get hot. And let me tell you, I've seen quite a few in my time. Quite a few. Some of them even went south. I've seen some go physical. Okay? Because they just couldn't handle it. The emotional triggers is just arise, right? Like, we have to keep it productive. Like, what are we trying to achieve together? Bring the focus back to what is shared across both parties, both teams. They're on the same page, same team. And they may not agree on every single play, but objectivity is your superpower when it comes to navigating polarization. It keeps you calm, it keeps you fair, it keeps you focused, it keeps you on what matters the most. It keeps you solving problems, it keeps you moving forward. Leadership isn't about avoiding conflict. It could be win-win, but could also be win-lose. It just depends on the situation. It is about handling it with grace, clarity, a little humor, professionalism, and doing what's needed for both parties. So thank you very much for listening today, to tuning in to Voices of Victory. Keep that glass half full. Don't spill it, and don't empty it out. Now, we're going to talk about our sponsor really quick, No Limit Emails. NoLimitEmails.com has a wonderful service, and that service is an email marketing tool, a comprehensive email marketing system that has a streaming tool along with it where you could stream your podcast and so on. And you can get 60% off on this offer today. 60% off when you sign up. So all you got to do to sign up and get 60% off on one of their packages that are there is to go to the Warrior Plus link that's in the description of the podcast and sign up. And you'll automatically get that 60% through that Warrior Plus link. That's all I'm going to say for today. Have a great day, and I'll see you on the next episode.